Speedrunning. Not just a very popular event in the Amphetamine Olympics, but the name given to the act of finishing games fast by those, ironically, who clearly have a lot of time on their hands. Any percent, no item, randomizer, and the classic 100% glitchless, plus many more weird and obtuse categories littered the internet in the speedrunning community. But they all have one thing in common, and that is they're trying to be the fastest. And while titles like Super Mario 64, Getting Over It, and Portal 2 will see countless runs uploaded and battled over, there are some games that the speedrunning community downright hate. So let's strangely take our time and take a look at titles that infuriated players due to glitches, lack of accessibility for the community, or just like this intro, took too damn long to get to the point. So with this in mind, I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are the games that speedrunners hate. Doom Eternal. Ah, rippin' and a tearin'. What a time-honoured tradition. Now, Doom has always had a special place in the hearts of speedrunners ever since the original title, because it's just due to how the gameplay rewarded precision and manipulating speed to close out chapters. And upon its announcement, the uber-violent and ultra-kinetic Doom Eternal looked to be more of the same, with improved movement mechanics and a focus on keeping momentum as high as the pile of bodies behind Doom Guy. This was a game that should have become a firm favourite within the speedrunning community. It was just a shame though that id Software seemed to hate the idea of giving that same speed to the actual speedrunning community. You see, shortly after the game came out, a series of patches hit Doom Eternal that fixed bugs and rebalanced enemy AI, but also completely nerfed and in some cases removed some movement mechanics and animation cancels that speedrunners were using to cut the game down by huge chunks. The same was true of combat encounters, which, whereas in previous editions could be glitched and skipped, were now tightly controlled and forced players to engage with them. Gross! Now, I'm all for smoothing out the player experience through patches, but the removal of these specific exploits was something that completely baffled the community, to the point that they actually felt targeted. You see, the average player would likely never come across these exploits, let alone know how to use them efficiently, and so the targeted patches seem designed to cripple speedruns. Why? Therefore, if you look at speedruns for this game, nearly every submission is done using a vanilla version of the game pre-patches, and it certainly earned a huge amount of ire from the community for being so anti-fun. Pokémon Violet. Now, you might be looking at the title for this and scratching your head thinking, surely this walking execute, Pokemon joke, surely they mean Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because both games surely have the same issues, right? Well, no, my friends, as this particular pain point for speedrunners seems to be solely in Pokemon Violet, and weirdly, it's for a very strange reason. Now, before I reveal this point, I need to make something Pokemon Crystal Clear Fairy. Ugh, that was a torturous one. Now, this specific generation of games sucks for speedrunners in general at the best of time, because it's mainly due to how the game refuses to let you skip the majority of cutscenes and holds your hand so tightly through the prologue tutorial area that it just can't be skipped or shortened in any meaningful way, meaning that it's a solid 40 minutes to an hour before the run can actually start. This stinks worse than a Garbodor on a summer's day. That's it with Pokemon jokes. I'm not going to make any more. However, let's lighten the mood slightly by talking about the super specific reason that Violet gets extra hate. You see, in this generation, the player is given access to ride Pokemon, which differ depending on which version of the game you're playing. This allows you to venture out into the wider world atop your mighty Mon and explore to your heart's content, which sounds great. However, speedrunners of Violet soon noticed a rather big drawback with Miraidon, as it turns out that the exhaust animation from this ride Pokemon is so badly optimized that it actually slows the console down enough to affect your overall speedrun times. What the hell? A company that has sold actual billions of dollars of video games and merch hasn't got the developing wherewithal to program what is essentially a run animation efficiently? Honestly, why do we give Game Freak so many passes at this point? I mean, please actually tell me in the comments, because as far as I'm concerned, they've not done anything momentous with the franchise for years, and given even less respect to your time and moment-to-moment gameplay enjoyment, I mean, go on, tell me, I'll wait. I've got all day. And I live here. Okay, I'll stop moaning, but the point still stands. This game sucks to speedrun. Trackmania. Now, for a game that's centered around driving very, very fast and where the action is so very, very high, Trackmania had a buffet table set out in front of it that was filled with enticing smells and experiences for the speedrunning community. It's just a shame, though, that upon approaching said metaphorical buffet and filling their boots, the developers insisted on spraying each fully stacked plate with comedy fart spray before then handing it back over, for reasons that seemed entirely for their own amusement, if little else. I say this because for 99% of a run, Trackmania plays as intended, aka it's full of sweaty palm turns and flips and millisecond differences in run submissions. It's just a shame that at the point of uploading said submissions, each one of them had to be passed through Ubisoft's own servers in place of local verification for runs, and the servers, for lack of better words, feel that they were made out of melting plastic bins because the bloody things kept failing.
This is fine.
This meant that your world run record could, and often was, invalidated thanks to server downtime or issues with data transfer, which is basically a death knell to a community that pours entire weeks' worth of effort into shaving off a few milliseconds. Ubisoft could have easily remedied this issue with local verification, but thanks to the decision to outsource this data, well, it meant that Trackmania is a speedrunner's nightmare and a dream at the same time. I mean, they've got enough on their plate. They've got to battle with the game's physics and insane course layouts. Give them a goddamn break!
Let's go!
Super Mario 64 Switch version. Now, it could well be argued that Super Mario 64 is the king of speedrunning games, with many either cutting their teeth on the title or dedicating their entire gaming career to topping its illustrious leaderboards. It is a game that has seen countless exploits discovered, movement mechanics that just quite nearly break the game and everything around it, and it's also one that requires nearly perfect muscle memory of all the many levels in order to even crack the top spots. It's also a game that Nintendo seems to have just utterly bungled for the speedrunning community with the release of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, the packaged version that came with other games for the Switch. Now, while this should have been heralded as the second coming of sliced Jesus for speedrunners, seeing as this would now allow them access to a game on a portable device and also open up the title for even more curious speedsters that don't have N64s, it immediately turned sour once members looked into which version was being ported over. It turns out that the version included in the pack was the Shindo variant, which actually fixed or completely nerfed key glitches that speedrunners use to shave minutes off their runs. This included the removal of the backwards long jump, which is a key staple for all top runs. And also, in a rather weird turn of events, the Switch version is actually slower overall than the N64 version, basically slamming the casket closed on any chances of this game being used widely in the speedrunning community. Nintendo had the chance to give speedrunners a true gift and then kind of hit them with a double whammy of disappointment, as not only was the 3D All-Stars version inferior, they also closed down the virtual console side of the eStore in 2023, taking with it that version of Mario 64 that could be played on the Wii U. So strangely enough, the only way to get your hands on one of the most iconic video games ever made is by purchasing a decades-old console. Cheers. And finally, let's talk about any game with heavy RNG. And so we come to the altar upon which every speedrunner offers gifts of blood, sweat, and tears to, that of RNGesus. Now, this deity, while sometimes benevolent and kind, also has a pretty sinister side, one that can ruin world-class speedrun attempts just because it kind of fancied a laugh at your expense. It's a cruel and unforgiving god. Many a speedrunner has been humbled by a title that uses heavy RNG, from Hades to The Binding of Isaac to the original Clue murder mystery game, the Beaver Bother minigame from DK64, or Diablo's randomized dungeons, and so on and so forth. But if we're going to pick one true tower of terror of RNG to focus our ire on, it's got to be Mario Party. It's gotta be. I mean, every single move that you make here is up to chance. A simple roll of a dice and some heavily weighted bullshit in the form of AI that seems to always have a cheap trick up their sleeve, or the ability to roll exactly what they need to get them that next star. And even when you're winning, you're only one power-up away from having all of your gains disappear in smoke. And that's without even addressing how many of the mini-games themselves have randomized elements built into them. Seriously, if you're looking to speedrun any of the Mario Party titles, then you are entering into a fresh level of hell that has all the other souls suffering there with you, wincing in sympathy pain. This is like trying to win the lottery by pushing each ball out of your urethra. You have a tiny chance to win, but my God, is it gonna hurt. And there we go, my friends. Those were the games that speedrunners hate. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. And if you want to chat to me further, you can do so by going over here where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0 on both Instagram and Blue Sky. Hope to see you over there, my friends. And you can follow my lovely editor over here on their social medias as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we talked today about speed running and going fast, my friends, let's take some time to just remind ourselves each and every day to be kind to ourselves, because you deserve the best, my friend. You do. You really, really do. You deserve love, happiness, and success. We all do as human beings. So just remember, above all else, you are a massive ledge and you deserve the best. And go out there with love for yourself in your heart and spread it onwards to your neighbor as well. Let's get through this together and make the best of it. Because 2026 is here, my friends, and even though it does stink a little bit like 2025, maybe we can make things a bit better. Anyway, right, I'll get out of here. But big love to you, my friends. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.